So going into this practice, I did have a feeling of I don't belong, or they're going to see that I don't belong and I haven't been doing this like they have.
We move through life, we want to try new things and we're scared. We have passions that we want to pursue, but we don't know how. And I think that's as much connected to wellness as, supplementation and getting to bed. I think this idea of living a life that even if you're scared, you'll just go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a nighttime job.
I know.
How do you do it? How are you keeping it together? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. My guest today is stand-up comedian, writer, and performer Beth Stelling. And I saw Beth on her Netflix special, If You Didn't Want Me Then, and I thought I really want to talk to her. She has just the easiest, but yet biting and funny humor. And you can tell she's built for it. I think one of the things she really represents is somebody who's like, hey, I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning relationships and life and how I'm doing things, but simultaneously is so supremely confident about her craft. And she might get input for a couple of people, but it's just the incredible reminder of, as human beings, we're going to have so many areas in our life that we're always unsure of and wobbly, but there's no reason that we can't also be in charge of something that really is ours. And Beth is an incredible example of this, not to mention that she, when I saw her, was getting ready, training for, and had tried out for and made the U.S. Masters field hockey team. And a few weeks from this conversation, she was going to be competing in the Pan Am Games. So there's a lot going on with Beth, and she is strong and loving. And I just really enjoyed talking to her. And I do feel like oftentimes comedians are some of the best people to articulate just the day in and day out kind of challenges and things that we all go through. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Beth Stelling. Beth Stelling, welcome to the podcast,
Thank
to my
you for
house.
having me.
We've kept you for hours and hours already. And you have field hockey practice at 9.
Which I'm fully prepared for, thanks to you. Fully recovered.
Oh,
feeling
well,
strong.
yeah, we'll get you your ketones at the end, get you jacked up. But I think it's funny. I saw you. I don't know you. I know you a little better. But I saw you on the Netflix special. My two things I love are documentaries and comedy. It's my two favorite things. And after I watched you, I thought, oh, she's really funny. And I was talking about it to a friend of mine at workout. And then Krista Miller, who is a comedic actress, is like, oh, I know her. And she connected us. And I actually went and saw you perform. And then I realized as I started doing homework that I was like, well, maybe also why you liked her is because there's something jockey. Like it's some language that I relate to. I go, how pathetic would that be? If I'm like, look at her, she looks like she. So I want to actually start there because I feel like you were a field hockey player before you were a comedian.
True. I started in third grade.
Third grade.
In Ohio.
Is it because you were attracted to it? Is it because that's what they did?
Right. I think we played in gym and it was offered in our community program, in like the free community sports program. And my sisters were into it. And so that for sure is what drew me to it. But yeah, that we started on the floor, wood floor, gym floor. And then you moved to grass. And then it wasn't until, I guess, college. I played a little bit of club here and there, but I didn't play in college. I played a couple games, but I was a theater major, so I eventually gravitated towards that. And then it was like 7 years ago out here in LA that I started playing on turf, like in an adult league out here, and got kind of serious about it. And then this year, February is when I decided. I was like, it was another teammate that was like, you should try out for the Masters team, the U.S. Women's Masters team. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah. So I was like, you know what? This year for me was about friends, seeing friends play out, like musician friends, and traveling and field hockey. And so I was like, I'll do it. And I was doing like I did a little stand up here and there still too, but like I did my job here and there as well. But I tried out in Phoenix and then ended up making the team. And so now I'm actually full on training for it, which is interesting. I've lost some of my favorite fat. In my butt and my boobs.
I was going to ask you, has your physique
changed? Yes, as I've been preparing for this, I've changed a little bit. Yeah.
Why are you wincing? Why are you wincing?
It's tough to see your boobs and your butt go.
Yeah.
I think I need to rebuild them with some muscle.
But don't you think your butt is just harder?
Yeah, maybe. It feels like it's getting smaller, and I really like a big butt.
You do?
And a smile.
I was way more flat chested when I was competing too, because all your fat goes. People don't realize it's like, it'll come back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So when you're flying to Arizona to try out, so from my point of view, as someone who comes from sports and I've done other things, I can't think of anything, short of things where you're going to die, war, military, what have you, certain sports maybe, that seems more scary and truly more difficult than being a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand you're not working in the coal mine, but the point is, it is very difficult. It's hard and scary.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point where, like, I think I would normally say, no. It's not scary because it's like I do it.
Yeah.
But I would say I have to call back to that first time I did it. It was very scary. Yeah. So the answer is yes, it's scary.
Yeah.
I've just been doing it so long. But even early years of me, if I took a break or had to do something or go somewhere, coming back after however many days off, a week off, 3 weeks off. It's like, not to mention the pandemonium, like coming back after that, it was scary.
Yeah.
And I had been doing it a long time. So yeah, time off when you're not working it still has that adrenaline, that fear feeling to come back to it. And then of course you get the first laugh and you're rolling. But
it's rhythm too, right? So I was thinking, okay, what do sports and stand-up comedy have? Stand-up, you're alone. You're a writer, so on certain projects you work with other writers, but there's something sort of a singular pursuit. Yes. But
that was the allure.
Yeah, it's so funny, people like you. I have a kid like that. I'm such a team player person. I'm always like, let's do it together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But going out there to Arizona to try out, are you using that same side of your personality to be like, ooh, I'm excited, I'm nervous, I could fail, I'm going to go for it?
Right. That's interesting. Because I was nervous and I didn't know what to expect. And I wasn't really tapping into that, I would say, because I felt shy and I felt like an adult that has to like make new friends in that moment. And that's hard. And I didn't know what to expect. And physical stuff is like when you're being tested on it is scary. I mean, maybe you did. What kid looks forward to the president's test growing up?
No, I didn't.
Like, yeah. No. Or just sort of like, I'm going to be tested on my physical abilities right now. That's terrifying. So I don't know if I've really tapped into that. I did my best to rise to the occasion, but I think I actually ultimately did play a little scared. Like, not of the ball, not of the game. That I always go for, to my own detriment. I played maybe a little more frantic, less...
To sped up?
Yes, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Like, stay calm, wait. I'm a defender, particularly as a defender. Like... Last thing you want to do is go for it and they're just around you. You need to hold and hold and hold and force them into something or force them into the corner or into their own mistake. And I felt a little like, go for it, show that you can do this type of thing. So that was present. And it was even like we've just practiced for the first time as a team at Duke this past weekend. And I still had that going. It was very like, how do I get calm? How do I take a second to be like, hold them, stay calm, jab, don't lunge, like don't blow it, fully go for it, just hold.
Yeah.
So I have to like get into that mindset and be there because it's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you guys are going to go to the Pan American Games in Argentina. Yeah. Did you care if you really made it or not? Did it mean anything to you?
I did care, but it would have felt, I kind of can put myself there. I thought, if I don't make it, I'll understand it's my first time trying out. Mm-hmm. And when I did make it, I was shocked. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay. So going into this practice, I did have a feeling of I don't belong, or they're going to see that I don't belong and I haven't been doing this like they have. And I didn't play in college. So in our moment, in our pre-meeting in the locker room, you say, just to get to know each other.
Oh no, your resume, your field hockey resume.
I was like, I played from third grade on. I moved from the gym to grass, and that's where I stopped. You know, I was very like, I am not you guys.
Yeah.
And also, of course, I was like, the last stick I played with in high school was a wooden stick. And when I showed up to play in LA with a wooden stick, people were like, it's a witch. You know, I was like, I now have a updated Kevlar composite
Very
stick.
Nice. Does it make it easier?
It is lighter, and that makes it easier to get your jabs.
Equipment's amazing.
I just ordered a new one for fun because the Masters people got a discount. The women's Masters team got a discount. And I was like, I'm gonna
have a backup.
Yeah, just a little backup. Watch it not work for me. That's the thing too. It's like the game has changed so much. So there's stuff I had to catch up on and learn, which I have been playing with my club out here, the Santa Monica Field Hockey Club. So it's like I have been playing. I have been doing it. But I maintain this sort of mindset of like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I need to obviously kind of move out of that because like our coach said, our coach is an Olympian, Stephanie Fee. And she's like, this game is going to be dependent on your confidence. It's not just like you look over your teammate and you're like, I could take it, I couldn't. It's like, I'm here and I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes from all of us being confident to say like, I'm here for you. Pass it to me if you need me. As opposed to like, am I where I'm supposed to be? And I don't think I should be here. So like, this is a mental thing for me too, I think.
On this show, I talk to, you know, a lot of doctors and scientists, and it's usually around some sort of wellness. But the thing that shows up for me in your story, though, is I think as we move through life, we want to try new things and we're scared. I think we have passions that we want to pursue, but we don't know how. And I think that's as much connected to wellness as, you know, supplementation and getting to bed. I think this idea of living a life that even if you're scared, that you'll just go for it.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I wonder, or maybe you can share, what do you think it is in you that you don't worry, you just say, okay, I'm gonna try, whether it's to be a stand-up comedian or go, you know, play adult field hockey. And by the way, I think there's another onus on us when we have any level of success in something. So you've done well in stand-up, and now you're going to go and try out for field hockey. It's like, oh yeah, the funny girl's coming out to the team, right?
Yeah. Or they expect you to be funny, which is not always the case.
And
like,
plus you're trying to work it out in your mind about your footwork and where you're supposed to be. It's like, who's got time for jokes, right?
Yeah. I mean, there were young people for sure who were like kind of hazed me in a way. It bothered me at first, and then I realized they were like 19, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. But like, there was this one guy who I'm now friends with, but he was it was kind of mean to me, honestly. I learned his name because I was like, I don't like this person.
Yeah, know your enemies.
They're bullying me. Yeah. And it was very like zealous celebrity jokes or whatever. And you know me, I'm like, oh, you're getting to know me. I'm like the last person that's showing up to a field hockey game that I'm already scared to be at. It was just like a random pickup game. You show up and play.
You didn't bring like your iced frap and your assistant?
I was passing out posters. Anybody need anything signed? I'm here. I was like trying to like, that was enough. That was putting myself out there, like we just said, as an adult, like, to try something new, which is scary, even though I had the experience in it. And so it was like, I did get a little hazed by a teen. The most brutal people out there.
They are.
So that was, you're right. Like, it felt like is it not human nature to want to do things you're good at? I think, you know, so it's like, I knew I could do it. So that made it a little easier. But then it is like you said, the onus of being like, well, I'm good at this thing, and I should try to match that energy I bring to that activity, into this sport. So, but initially I really didn't do that. It wasn't about like trying to win or get on this team, or I didn't have goals. It was like, I don't love working out. How can I sneakily work out by having the ball in front of me, like a little carrot, like that I can go for, you know? So that was making me run. And all I need is a little encouragement. I mean, I'm probably a comic to this day because after my first open mic, some arguably creepy booker was like, you got something, kid. And I'm like, I do. You know, like I was terrible. And it just made me come back and do it again. And all it took for field hockey was the guy running it named Simon, very friendly guy, thankfully. He, I think he's an Australian guy. He doesn't do it anymore, but he was like, hey, you're great. You should come back next week. And I don't think he was lying, even though I have sometimes those feelings in my head.
Sure.
But that's all it took to be like, okay, I didn't come out here and embarrass myself.
And
so
it's
I'll
fun.
Come back.
I think too, I certainly don't. I'm really guilty of this. Laird is really good at this. Fun.
Yes.
Just
have fun.
Have some fun. Why I always attach like, how do I do it? What's the outcome? But sometimes just going and hitting a ball of any type, it's like, oh yeah, this is fun. You're playing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is more fun when you have a little bit of an affinity for it or a little background knowledge. Because I went to a dance class. We all like sit and watch TV and stuff. And you're like watching people judging them on so you think you can dance or whatever it is. And you're like, I got into this dance class and I was like, I am an absolute imbecile. I was like, I couldn't catch it. I couldn't remember anything. And it did break me down. It did shake my confidence. I was like, so that is obviously why we want to do things that we have an affinity for, or like a natural talent that we lean towards, because those feelings do not feel good. Now, if I really wanted to, I'm sure I could have stuck with it, but I haven't been back.
You went once and that was it?
Yeah. Oh, I thought that I could do a dance class where I learned a routine, and the answer is absolutely not.
You practicing at home on one? In private?
I'm never doing any of those moves again.
You know, I am intrigued by your landlord, but anyway.
But and also I will say this too, in that realm, I was looking for things to go back to like get back into my bodies. Cause like the reason I started it must have been about 8 years ago in LA when I even Googled field hockey, Los Angeles, or in Facebook or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was because I felt a little lost and wanted to get back into my body and know who I am instead of just being like a floating head. I had been I'd gone through a little traumatic, some partner abuse, and I was coming out of that on the other side. Still going to therapy, trying to figure things out, and went to a healing trauma program. And part of the result of that, it's like nothing. You're never going to do anything that's like, I'm fixed, Yeah. But one of those things that they did encourage was like, meditation, of course, and maybe seeking a meeting if you needed to do that, like Al-Anon or something, or codependence or something. And the other thing was like getting back into things from that you used to love as a kid. So that was also the impetus for me getting back into field hockey. And I also got a cello for myself because I used to play cello.
You did? You played cello?
I do, but very intermediately. And I looked at the strings last night and 2 of them were very loose. That's how long it's been. I played a couple weeks ago, but I really knock out the Forrest Gump theme song, but that's about it. It's so beautiful. You know that one? Yeah.
Is the idea behind that to get back into sort of your essence? That maybe we're sort of come to this world with a pretty amazing essence, and then we get dinged here and there by either parents or lovers or all. Who knows?
Yes. Nobody really gets through this unscathed. And I think that it was... I guess to sort of like, maybe the sad or bittersweet sentence would be like to feel what it was like before I got hurt.
Yeah.
Before things went bad or
Yeah.
What was that? Like, I want to go back to that. Obviously you can't, but you can sort of like do a defibrillator back to that time sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, be reminded too.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing when you go through something and you realize too, though, that how much of it's like, how do we so much of it we keep alive in our minds, and then how do we work it out? It's such an interesting dance. It's like honoring that. So do you think do you think you were always funny? Were you trying to be funny for somebody? Like I was watching Gene Wilder recently on some interview, an old interview, and I guess his mother had a heart attack when he was 9.
Oh my gosh.
And when she came home, the doctor said, don't ever get in a fight with her again, or you could kill her. She could die at 9 years old.
Oh,
can you imagine?
gosh.
And part of that was like the way he said it too was like a joke. But then he said it was the first time he ever thought about trying to make someone laugh on purpose.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I know you're the youngest of 3. Your mom was kind of a single mom.
Yes.
A teacher.
Yes. And I for sure was, my mom would say I was a little ham. I was definitely the comic relief for sure.
Were you doing it because you thought, oh, this makes everybody else feel better, or just was who you are?
I think if I have to like really tap into why I did what I did back then was I loved the feeling of making them laugh. So I would say it's definitely, as much as I want to be like, I did it for them to make them not have to think about anything bad. It's like, I loved what it felt like to make them laugh. So yeah, when you're the youngest, you pop out and you have an audience. Everybody's already there. They've just been waiting,
Yeah.
So it was sort of like, I just would do anything. I would do anything for a laugh. I mean, yeah. I'm just thinking about what I did.
We call it the selfish act of giving in a way. Like Laird talks about that all the time. Like, yes, giving is really great. It's great for the recipient, but it really feels so good.
Yes, it does. I also love giving gifts and acts of service too, but it's like, it feels so good, obviously, to see someone laugh or make them happy, or you remembered something small that they had said and now here it is for you. I've remembered it,
Yeah.
So it's like, that is such a good feeling.
What's the path from Ohio? Now, was this Miami of Ohio that you went to school? Okay, because I saw that and I was like, it's got to be Miami of Ohio. I couldn't see you down in South Florida.
Right, no.
You were going to gotten derailed. You wouldn't be here.
I don't think I would have been here, no.
What do you think you would have been doing if you had gone down to South Florida?
Piercing teens on Daytona Beach.
Yeah, right? Something like that. Have a hot Cuban lover.
I know, yeah. Running a ride at Universal. Yeah, it was my dad, of course. So I was raised in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, and then my dad moved to Orlando. So there was a period of time where I didn't see him, probably from about 3 to 6. And then my sisters and I were court-ordered visitation down there, which is kind of wild if you think about it. I would have been like, I think we were like 6, 8, and 9 or something like that.
Yeah. How'd that go?
My mom taking us to the airport. This was back when she could still walk us to our gate.
Yeah, of course. That's right. For those of you who don't remember, there was no TSA. You didn't have to have a ticket to travel, and you could walk up to the gate and just get on and even meet people.
Yes. It's wild to think about now.
Yeah, before 9/11.
Shoes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was the
2000.
Was it shoe and then 9/11?
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was shoes.
Yeah.
And by that I mean the shoe bomber. Okay.
Yeah. So you go down.
So we would start going down.
So they had to battle.
Yes. Yeah.
Because your dad had sort of some aggressive behavior towards your mother. And so he gets it worked out.
Where we start visiting him. And I mean, just a wild experience, right? Like to be you and your sisters, your mom has to take you to the airport, drop you off. My mom used to spray her perfume on like the stomach of my little bunny. And because sometimes we would have to go for like a month in the summer. That is a lifetime as a child.
When you're a little kid?
Oh my goodness.
Did you have a mouthy? Was your middle sister? Who was the mouthy sister? Was any of them the one that would kind of be the defender of the pod? Or was there anyone? Or were you just all sort of like, oh? Megan
was sort of like, what would you call it? Surrogate mom, for sure.
Yeah.
Our oldest sister. Hannah was, I always think about, it was a field hockey shirt that we had one year. It was like, speak softly, but carry a big stick, which I think was like a Franklin Roosevelt quote. Anyway, I think about that with Hannah. Like she is quiet and shy maybe sometimes, but she's very loyal, there's an undercurrent there happening. So if she had to, she'd lift a car,
Yeah, sure.
And me, I would say, if anything, maybe sort of like a passive aggressive humor type situation. Smart ass, yeah.
Do you think your dad, when you guys would go, after about like 2 days, think I court ordered this, but I really can't handle it?
No, I think he's loony enough to have been like, I'd keep you here forever. He was always trying to get us to stay. His behavior was more sort of like, if I take you on a shopping spree, except the budget would be like $15. I was like, well, that's not a spree. I'm not complaining, but that's not a spree.
Reality.
And if I do this, or if I take you to the beach all the time and make it fun, then maybe you'll stay. So his attitude was more like, how do I get you to stay here? And we're like, you're not going to get us to stay here. It's
and this
Florida.
Is kind of nobody had a cell phone, right?
No, I mean, isn't that so interesting to have like the parent be like the person who can connect you back to the other parent?
Yeah, that's always wild.
Right. There's so much. It's like when you're watching a movie and you're like, no, don't do that. Like, let them call her. Like, he didn't do anything. I don't remember. I have memories of him like keeping us
but it's
from
just
her.
that he's the one, the gatekeeper.
Yeah, it's just like so strange to have that have been the case. And yes, there's so much about my dad, but sign spinner is his job technically. He calls it live roads to commercials or character directionals.
Yeah.
I should
love
slow
the
down.
titles.
I'm like, I often do this in stand up because we've spoken about this. I like being present and genuine.
Yeah.
So if I'm repeating a bit, sometimes I'm like, you guys know this one. It's like, no, they don't know who you are or what you're talking about. So the point is, my dad dresses up in costumes and stands on street corners in front of Orlando businesses and has been doing this for like 30 years. Some people for sure know him. Yeah. Like when I was touring the special from 3 years ago, I would always ask, like, does anybody know my dad? Even in, where was I this year? Madison, Wisconsin, I think. No, Fort Collins, Colorado. I was doing the Fort. This is not that long ago. We're getting pizza afterwards, me and Mo Welch, who's with me as a comic. She was directed this last special as well. And this is just a couple months ago. We're eating the pizza after a show. Some sweet little guys give us their chair. We start talking to them. They're like a young band touring. We get to talking. One of them's like, I'm from Orlando. And I go,
no.
Do you know my dad? He's like, the leprechaun in front of the Carryman? I was like, that's my dad. He's like, I know that guy. Like, because he grew up in Orlando. He'd seen my dad on the corner as a leprechaun. So it's interesting to like still have that. He was kind of like a weird little staple there.
Yeah.
And he got a little press one time, which he clings to. I don't know how long ago it was, but he was on Far Out on Fox. And they show a clip of him. He's not just sign spinning, which, by the way, if you really think about it, that's not a good way to get people in. They can't even read the sign. So my dad does not spin. He gets on a ladder.
Yeah. He gets up on a ladder?
Yes, he's been arrested for that many times. It's like against an ordinance in certain areas of Orlando.
You can't have a ladder.
Yeah, ladder
do you have a permit for that ladder?
Above the street or something. It's like, there's no reason to risk your life for Firehouse subs, you know? To him, it is. Anywho, so people would sometimes know him, and that was his sort of MO. I forget where I was going with that.
Well, no, we were just talking about how he got his attention.
Yes. I know. So on Fire Out on Fox, that's where I was going with that. The woman was like, the people say when Bert's out there, there's this many more people go in, like some sort of percentage or something. Yeah, sure. And then you cut back to the studio, and you can tell the woman at the desk is like, and then she was like, I don't know, he seems weird. And I remember as a kid being like, I don't like her. You can't say that about my dad, but it's like, of course, she's absolutely right. I mean, everybody, no one's allowed to say that but me.
That, of course, that's the family privilege.
But walking around with him is and was always wild. Because he's wearing like practice jerseys just as a shirt, like a penny.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He wears his wallet around his neck.
Where is it? Was he from Ohio?
West Virginia. He was born in New Orleans, grew up in West Virginia and India. Moved to India, yes,
the country of India?
Yes, and rented Chintala, like Andhra Pradesh. Because his dad, my grandpa, was a doctor, but also a missionary. So they're sent over there, which is very interesting, right? Do you find that fascinating?
And you know more because now you're an adult. I went through this. You know, I didn't always live with my parents. I lived with a couple that grew up with my mom from 2 to 7, and my father passed away during that time. But what was interesting is as I got older and I got less angry, and I became an adult. And for example, even when I met Laird, my oldest daughter was 4 months old. I have a stepdaughter, and it was all kind of messy. We showed up like we were really uber responsible to her mom, but it was still messy, right?
Yeah.
And I started looking at life, just going like, it's not perfect. It doesn't happen sometimes the way that you plan it. And of course you have to show up. But I'm wondering as you've gotten older, if you think back to maybe the way that your dad, what he had to navigate. Because my grandma was a very tough and mean lady. And I think it really was hard on my mom.
Yeah.
And that stunted her in a way that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I just wonder now, because you have this interesting way, it feels anyway, and Chris and I were talking about it, where you really have peace. It feels like it's an observation, it's a fact, it gives some reference to maybe your experience, but you don't seem particularly angry or stunted. I'm sure there's always things we're all working out.
Sure.
But that when we can sort of go, well, maybe my grandpa was kind of a missionary. I mean, who knows what the rules of engagement were on that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the observation. I'm like, it's always interesting to have something reflected back to you, so you can like be like, oh, I am glad that it's coming off in that way, because I also have done a lot of work, and in fact, I have my mom to thank for that, my oldest sister Megan and Hannah, but like we were a unit. We were also court-ordered therapy as well by the state. So it's like therapy was part of my early days to move past some of the stuff that we saw as kids.
Yeah.
And it feels like we all did the work, and I would say maybe my dad hasn't as much.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. It feels like that to me. And I have my oldest sister Megan to thank, because sometimes I will say that or reflect that, or he'll do something I don't like, and it's like, it's less like you keep your side of the road clean and don't worry about that. It's less that, and it's more like, can we forgive him for not being able to, for his limitations? Yeah. That's her question to me. And so it's like, yeah, I think I can. So we are very different people. Sometimes I can get frustrated with him. He often loves to do this thing. He has lots of things. He's very repetitive. Very repetitive.
Is that age or lack of new building of life?
Almost always been repetitive. It's like these little things he said, like out on the street, he repeats.
Sure.
And he's very connected to that. He thinks he's really connecting with other people in their cars as they drive by.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of keep following that party road is one of them. Listen to your parents if he sees a kid. I'm like, my old joke was like, you should have, you know, but like he has a lot of,
you should have been a parent.
Yeah, there you go. It's a better joke. But like there was, so I guess all that to say, it's sort of like, I think too, because we are different, I do appreciate knowing what his perspective is. There are still times where I have to put up boundaries, or that's enough for me. One of the things he loves to repeat is role reversal. He'll say like, you're the parent and I'm the kid now.
Oh, for real?
He's been doing that for a long time, even when we were younger.
Ooh, that's a no-go.
Yes.
I would like you to know, because you don't have children. I don't know if you will ever decide to, if you choose to, whatever. So you're not a parent at this moment. I can tell you as a parent, one thing I've learned is you always have to be the parent. And I've had times with my kids where I want to tell them like, or it's not even tell them, I'm sure I've said everything I'd like to say to them for the most part. But I can remember having tension with one of them and being like, yeah, I don't even want to talk to this person. And then a little voice peeks in. It's like, haha, guess what? You're the parent. You don't get to have temper tantrums. You have to show up in this certain way, because you're also modeling to them what it looks like, that I don't have to agree with you, but I'm not going to bail on you.
Right.
And so I just want to say, I don't care if you're deep into your 30s, at no time. Now, granted, as parents get older, maybe you step in and care for them in a different way.
Yeah.
But I always think, it's like when a parent goes, you never call me. It's like, then why don't you call?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it sounds silly, but.
Yes, very much. And I think we have had to deal with a lot of missteps in that way from things that he said to us growing up.
Yeah.
And no parent is perfect. My mom is also not perfect. I mean, like I always thought of her as like an angel because of everything she went through and raising us as on a teacher salary and all this. And being able to move on and keep going. But there's a lot of things my dad said that were like, when I say repetitive, it's like almost brainwashy, you know? One of the things that was so interesting, he always said, was that get the education you need, to get the job you need, to get the car and the house you need, then worry about the husband. I mean, that's like something that was so repetitive.
Interesting.
He would also always say, like, if you ever have kids, I'll take it.
Oh, what?
If you ever have a baby, I'll take it. Like, don't worry. Like, I would, it's like, what?
Like, I would give you my baby.
Yeah, like, I'm not leaving it here.
Can you imagine? It's like, I know the inside story.
Yeah, let me carry you. Yeah. The call's coming from inside the house.
I think to this day, my mother has never driven my kids anywhere.
Yeah, I was like, exactly.
I have a kid 28 years old. Yeah. It's like when they can drive you, then y'all can go together somewhere in the car.
Right. I'm not going to run this one back, but thank you. And then like, he would also often say like, you're always like, and then he would say his wife, a lot of like, you're so like her. There was just a lot of things said. He still will sometimes do this thing about unconditional love, which he's really put on, and that's his story in his head about my mother. And I know that that's where it comes from, because when I have tried to get more information or find out more, or his perspective on some of the darker things of our past, never goes well. And he's definitely used but he also struggles with mental illness.
Yeah. So this is important because sometimes, when you bang your head against the wall in a situation, even an ex-partnership or something, it's like, oh yeah. Because we always go, oh, that's a good person. That's a bad person.
Right.
No, this person is not well. And I think, because we think there's no way we could be born to somebody not well.
Yeah.
I even joke about that having kids. It's like, so kids have, assholes have parents
Yes.
too. Like we have all these like ideals and it's like, oh no, listen, that person maybe is not well. And there's something that can be liberating when you also can be like, I have compassion for that. I also understand in the ways that it has impacted me. That's my responsibility. I got to work that out. And then also I forgive them. And like, I have never slept over again with my mother when I moved out at 17. I can visit for only however long. Yeah. If she would come stay with me, I would request the day that she would leave before she entered, because I was like, this is what's going to work for me as an adult. So I think too, realizing, because we think, oh, wow, how could they do that or this? It's like, no, man, they're not well.
Yeah. And the limitations of that person and like what you can expect from them.
Yeah. You can have sex and be crazy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And make babies. Like it happens.
There are no rules on that.
And sometimes don't you ever think like, when you think like your mom had 3 kids with him, it's like, well, did you not see it? Like, not the first time, not the second time. Oh, the third time. Yeah. It's like even sometimes like you wonder how they got that deep.
100.
Into the...
Well, and then we watch reality television and people are falling in love like in a week because they both like catch up. And you're like, oh, well, that's how. They didn't have a conversation.
Yeah, it's cold in Ohio in the winter months.
There was no deep conversation about needs, futures, plans, whatever it is. I'm not saying that is the case for my parents, but it's like, it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When were they quite young?
They met in college.
Young. That's still young.
Yeah.
They weren't 35.
No.
They didn't know better.
No. Okay. And it's so interesting. My mom will say something like, I was like, well, what did you like about him out of curiosity? And she was like, he talked a lot. It just makes me laugh. I think she thought he was funny too.
Yeah, of course. And I also think when I think of like when I see you and I'm like, you are a performer, you make your living as a performer, you're good at being a performer. You're the continuation of like your dad in his own little way. Mm-hmm. Like that thing maybe came from him.
He loves to say that. Yeah. He loves to be
but that's like the good
side
of
it. Or in our business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In our business. Yeah. No, but I'm saying like this idea of being able to do this, there, I guess, yes. but the point is it's like, how great.
Yeah. Definitely.
My mom's 6'2". She was 6'2 and a half. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I needed it. I really needed it.
I took that and I ran with it. And I jumped and I bumped and I spiked it.
Yes. And it got me to school and I met some really helpful mentors, But I think it's, I guess, for me, it feels like, and even when you tell the stories and your Netflix series special is it's personal, but yet, so you get a sense of it, but you think, oh, great. It's great fodder. Mm-hmm. Painful, but great.
Yeah.
And yet when you say like your dad's doing what he's doing, one can't help but think,
Yeah. And he's very much talk about whatever you want. You lived it. He's very like, use whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
He's always been like that.
Just tell him where to find me.
And then I put his website on there.
That's amazing. Was there an uptick?
Oh, my dad has been answering phone calls because that's his cell phone on the website. I'm like, buyer beware. You're gonna be like, oh, it's called Beth Stelling. Like, good luck. Yeah. Enjoy that 3-hour-long conversation.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Try to get away from that.
It's kind of great though, because
he loves it.
Laird always talks about the predictability and chaos. And that's what I have I'm 53 years old. Mm-hmm. That's what I've finally learned is like, I'm not going to be upset about the things that are upsetting about you. I'm going to be so excited that you're consistent and there it is. Mm-hmm. Because the younger me was like, oh, nah. And now I'm like, oh, ooh, there it comes. There
yeah.
It is. It's amazing.
I FaceTimed with him a couple of weeks ago. Huh. He FaceTimed me. I picked up. He has no shirt on and a wiener dog in his lap and a cop's pulling him over. And I'm like, Dad, tell them that you pulled over to FaceTime your daughter or something.
Yeah.
And he's all like, I'm talking to the girl daddy, which by the way is 3 years ago, the old special. And he goes, my dad has made business cards of me.
No.
I didn't make the business cards.
Do you have the same last name as him?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he says, I'm talking to the girl daddy. The cop doesn't know what this means.
He's like, aren't
and
you?
Also, I don't call myself that. It's just the name of the special, which derived from a funny little thing my nephew said. Like, this is my dad, and my sister, my oldest sister, is very like, you know, like a family leader. And she's like, and that's my girl dad, which made me laugh. My dad and my girl dad. That's where it comes from. And that's why it made me connected to female comic. That's the joke. Anyway, I'm talking to the girl dad, to this cop who's like, what? He tries to give the cop my card. The cop's like, I'm good. I'm on FaceTime like, what is happening? Like, I took screenshots. My face in the corner is like this. I'll show you. And the cop is pulling him over to say, like, what I hear is, you know, it's going to be a problem. He's saying he's going to want a restraining order if you don't stop telling him to smile. My dad won't stop telling his neighbor to smile. I mean, that's the issue. This is why my dad's getting pulled over.
No.
Yes.
He tells the neighbor to smile?
He lives over, I guess, on the farther side of the gated community. It's not even gated. It's like, you know how Florida is.
Yeah, sure. Everything has a little...
whatever. You come into this little thing and windy. He's on the other side of the complex, but my dad drives around because some lunatic decided to give my dad the job in the community of naming Yard of the Month, which means my dad is driving around consistently 30 times a day, observing people's lawns. That's how serious he's going to take it. And in the middle of the night, you're going to get your sign at the turn of the month. Whoever has the best lawn. So he's driving around every day, and this guy doesn't like it, and he's not happy. And I'm sure he's not working on 100, you know?
Yeah, right.
So
he's like 5 schlitzes in.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think either of the parties are sane. And my dad's like, doing his keep smiling, keep following that party road type thing to this guy. Keep smiling, keep smiling.
And he gets a cop to do a restraining order?
He keeps calling the cops on my dad. And yes, this is the cop he's saying, you know, if you don't stop telling him to smile, he's talking about a restraining order. It's like, can you even do that?
How is that possible?
Can you even get a restraining order? I mean, I guess if he says you can't drive by my house anymore, I guess you're foregoing lawn of the month.
I was going to give it to you, but now I'm not. They'll probably end up being best friends. Remember when you tried to have me, like, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm so drawn to is the comfort level that you, I don't know if you're very good at, if it's just that you're a great actress, but it does feel real. And again, I probably tried to get some extra verification from Krista, but it's like this ease you have with kind of the difficulty of that. And even that it seems like you bring that into the way you have the relationship with yourself. There's an ease, like it doesn't feel like you're hiding. It doesn't feel like even in your last special when you turned around in your jeans and it was like, you know, get a look at this. I was like, and listen, being a large woman, and I've been around a lot of large women, and it goes both ways, right? Yeah. Like some are trying to be smaller and like, oh, and it's hard to meet a guy, and
I'm tough to look at that.
Yeah, and I'm a really big. I'm talking about really big women. Yeah. Like, okay, you've got some juice on you, but like you're not crazy giant. Yeah. But I'm talking about like, women that are
kind of like this.
Yeah, or Olympic, 200 pounds, 6'2", jump, just.
But you mean massive. When you see them sort of like,
they're just doing smaller, this. And then it's also the feedback from the outside world, right? Yes. Like, or they're robust. They're like, suck it, hot, right? And you're sort of going to be living in that body and that situation anyway. And the idea of coming to the place where you have a relationship with that, was that always natural for you? Was it humor? Like, how did you get to the place with, this is my family and this is how I grew up? Because there's a lot of people who go through a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And also here I am. Like even getting ready for this, I've put you in the sauna, I've put you in the cold pool, you went on the red bed, and I was like, do you want any lipstick or anything? You're like, I might put some mascara on. It's like just the ease of here it is. Is right. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from, well, I started the women's issues group at Oakwood High School when I was 15. I've always been fascinated with acceptance. I think sometimes your frustration becomes fascination for sure. And you go, how can I help? And what am I going to do to make other people not feel like this? Because I'm thankful I've never dealt with an eating disorder. Sometimes I feel like I have to say that because so many people, I'm not surprised that is prevalent in our society, because it's like, wow, thank goodness I escaped that somehow.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I didn't have some sort of tenuous relationship with food. I for sure, early days of stand-up, I was chubbier. I think I'm trying to remember when I kind of gained my weight. And you know what? Field hockey, freshman year, had to go to my dad's house before fall field hockey season.
Yeah.
There for a month. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Eating.
And fast
all
food,
the
right?
time. Yeah. Tons of food.
Yeah.
And I came back, and my coach, who I'm still in communication with, Lissa Ficker, was one of those like tough coaches that was something I responded to. Somebody who's like tough to get to and you want them to like you.
Oh.
Someone more stern. Her son comes up to me and he's like, my mom said you got slow. No, I wasn't supposed to
he
hear
didn't
that.
say big.
Yeah, no,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, my mom said you got slow. And I knew I gained weight. I also plucked the shit out of my eyebrows. Like a lot was happening.
Yeah.
Sun in my hair.
I was I dedicated a lot of time to sun in.
So that was probably the first time I knew I had like gained. And then probably like a breakup. I definitely had an emotional relationship with food, I would say. And then when I became a comic and I moved to Chicago, it was my early 20s, I did gain a good amount of weight. I was working at the bagel shop. I was eating that pretty much 3 times a day for food. I was riding my bike too in Chicago, but still, I look at some of my old pictures of myself. I accidentally deleted a bunch of emails the other day, and I was going through them. I could just press move all to inbox, but I was like going through them, and 2 come up that are on this topic that I just sent to my friends last night. One is a message. I used to send out, tape and send my stand-up to my family, which is hilarious and wild. It's so bad and difficult to watch. Those early days of me at 22. Well, I sent it to my mom. This is 2007. And I'm reading this email last night because I'm going through everything I accidentally deleted. And it says, like, I'll have to read it to you when we get my phone. But it's like, she's locked up my phone. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
She says something beautiful, like, because she's always been, like, supportive of me being a performer and an artist. Like, this is her handwriting. Before my little performances on my board, she'd always write, "You were born to perform." Anyway, she's like, I love that you're, doing stand-up. You're so funny. It's really difficult for me to watch you be mean to yourself. I just see you as my beautiful girl. And I think everyone sees that too. Maybe not you, or something like this.
Yeah.
And I wrote back and I said, I just think it's so funny and I like making people laugh. And if I can laugh at it, they can laugh at it. She said, I understand. I love you. Maybe I just didn't sleep enough tonight or something like this. So this is our little exchange that I found last night.
Oh, wow.
But it was like she didn't like hearing me be self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And I get that this is also 2007 comedy. Like times have also changed.
Sure.
Body positivity movement, awareness of other people other than what we were seeing on Friends.
Yeah.
Like on TV or in magazine covers. Like we're seeing a lot of more different type of people in the world than we were ever before. So I've changed on that too. But I did have that relationship with myself where I did feel fat and less than. And if I were to lose weight, then I'll do it. It was like, once then I can.
Yeah.
Whether that be career or, this is amazing that we were talking about this because also Audition for Mike and Molly was in there. And that was played by Melissa McCarthy, who's a fat woman.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I was definitely on the chubbier fat side, but I wasn't fat, and I use that word as a descriptor.
Yeah, of course.
And
well, you're probably too young.
Yes, definitely all those things. But I was funny, and and that major casting place in Chicago knew of me, and that was such a good feeling. And I'm not kidding you. Part of me took such joy. I think I was working at the cafe at the time to not have gotten an audition. And felt like, oh, I got to work out this week, or I should tan, or I should do this. In fact, I ate more. I could never eat enough. She was like, wear a big sweater to the audition. Yeah. Because that was a time, and still was for years after that, like a casting agent might say something to you, like, you either need to gain 30 or lose 100, whatever it was. Yeah. So that was still that realm. So those things didn't, I was definitely affected by those things for sure. But I also had that battle within me that was like, I know that this isn't true. Like you can be experiencing something and go, I know this isn't right. You know what I mean? Like, I know I should love myself and I'm great.
It's not your experience. It's the experience that the world is putting on you. And there forever will be a conflict.
And no matter, and it's that cliche of, let me look back at a photo of when I was that age and say, my sweetheart, you were perfect, or whatever it is. And I do look back, actually, another thing in that email was a sketch. And I'm 22, I bet, or 23. And it's like, I don't look great. I don't know how to dress for my body. Right. I'm definitely chubby. My face is that baby fat, and my eyebrows are too thin, and whatever. My hair's like
you're working it out.
Yeah. So it's like, I have obviously compassion for that person, but when I look in my little diaries, which I still have, it would say stuff like work out and tan, and it's like, you were in 7th grade, babe.
Yeah.
You know, or diet. What did that mean? Yeah. I don't even know. So all that to say, even in this last special, I was touring 26 cities. I was writing on season 8 of Rick and Morty. I was in a relationship with someone who was really struggling with their own issues, and that was deeply affecting me and my confidence. And that special came up, that taping came up. I'm not in the best shape. I'm not in the shape I'm in now in that.
No.
And all I said to myself was,
though.
Thank you. And all I said to myself was, this is it, babe.
Yeah.
Go out there and be you. Like, this is what we're doing it in. And I still say that. Like, I've had other comics say, like, oh, my special taping is coming up, and what am I going to wear? And I'm going to lose weight. And I'm like, this is it. Yeah. Like, don't talk about changing. Mm-hmm. Like, be what you're in. Like, all my talent and my opportunity got me that busy. And it made me eat a little more during this time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think it just comes with age too, where I'm just sort of like, this is it. And I badly just want to look how I look for everybody else too, to be like, this is what a human can look like at this age. So don't you worry. You know, like, I'm just a normal person. So I want you to be able to see that reflected when you're watching it. Like, if you.
And is there days still, because for me, it's not as much of the body as it sort of, it's sometimes it, and obviously I got over the height thing very early, because I was like, listen, you're not going to fight that. And it's like, who's going to swim upstream? Like, I'm good. I'm never going to be a size 2. Mm-hmm. Move on. 18, I figured that. I was like, move on. And it was helpful to have other big girls to be like, yeah, you know
and
what?
To be so talented with your body.
Well, so here's the thing. Is, to me, it's always, and I tell my girls this, you've met 2 of my daughters. These are beautiful young women. Mm-hmm. But I always say to them, there's millions and millions of beautiful women. It's like, develop a skill, develop yourself, develop a talent, because that's where the power is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, do you think that as you've become, because success is just a nice confirmation of, I had this feeling I could do this thing, and the more opportunity I have, it's just that confirmation. Like, I knew inside what I was feeling is right. It isn't about like, oh, I'm more successful. And the fact of being able to have more opportunity, work with people you want to work with, do cool things, that's great.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, because we spend so much energy on the outside of like, if it's really the maturity of the craft and the confidence in the craft and the opportunities and the successes that have really been like, yeah, okay, I feel good. Because we think it's when our hair is going to be perfectly smooth and our skin's going to be, you know, no lines and it's all perfect. It's like, no, it's total bullshit.
Definitely. And I will say too, this is just to be full transparency on this. Like, this special was difficult for me to watch, and I almost didn't want to put it out. That's how the mindset I was in at that time of filming. And sometimes when you film something, it's a time capsule. Mm. So again, I don't blame my ex for anything. I was in that partnership too, but it was really detrimental. And I loved him, and people are complicated. So it's like, but that was rough and taking a toll on me, busy with work. I didn't feel like I was as meticulous with this special as my last one. I did this in one take, because I couldn't fill an 1,100 seat theater twice in my hometown. I didn't do pickups. I did my entrance twice, but I didn't do like, let me take that joke again. Yeah. It's just that. What you see is what that show was. And that's a cool thing. And to comics, it's like, whoa, I can't believe you did that. But that doesn't really matter if people are, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't watch a movie and know like, oh, and he was really sick this day.
Yeah. But you know, also when things earmark a hard time, I look at pictures when we've gone through very challenging things as a family, and I look in that picture now and I think, fuck, man, we were going through some heavy shit right here. And it's always, but it's good too. Later, this is still fresh. There's a pang, and then you're like, man, and we've also come out of that.
Yes. And I'm still me. You saw me.
Yeah.
And other people have reflected back to me. It actually was a lesson in trusting the people who I have surrounded myself with and new people that are coming to me. Because I was still me because you received me. And my friends are looking at me during that time and going, this is good. I hope you can see that.
Yeah.
And I have to go, I have to trust my friend is being honest with me.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I felt like my hair was too short and I wasn't in the best shape. And I ran them, like, I threw that outfit on. You know what I mean? Like, so many things were happening for me. And it was the last minute, I got to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I will say, too, it was like, I did feel good about myself. And the minute I got that first laugh, it's like, here we go. Yeah. I'll do my thing. I know how to do this. But, like, speaking of, there's still comments online about my body or that I look like a man or that I'm like, there'll always be that.
Forever. Even if you had the hairdresser and the makeup artist and the couture outfit, and it just, people are sitting at home and they're not doing anything. So they're going to.
Or they hear you say something and go so deep into their own psyche and insecurities, it comes out in a comment.
Yeah.
Is what I've noticed because I look at some of the men's profiles that comment those things.
Sometimes I do that too. I can confess that now. Like every once in a while, someone will make a comment and I'm like, oh, let me check this guy out. Or I'll just be like, oh, is this a bot? Like joking. And the question mark, and people get really upset about that. Or a lot of times my favorite is when I have like a meditation lady who's a yoga instructor who puts some vitriol about a guest that I have on that actually is doing good work. But maybe she has like one thing they said about sort of accountability. Oh, everywhere, the world of control freaks and this and that. And I'll leave a voice text on their thing and I'll say, hey, listen, it seems like you're into health and wellness, whatever that means now. And why would you put that mean hate on my thing? And this person, you obviously didn't listen to the whole conversation because they're trying to do good work. Oh, the embarrassment.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, because
it's almost like when you're driving out here, sometimes it can be frustrating anywhere, really.
Oh,
and you're like, if you were like, and then a family pulls up and you're like, I'm embarrassed. You saw me do that. Even if it wasn't like an active thing, it's like someone saw you be like,
yeah, because that's the whole thing about online, right? It's about accountability and eyeballs, and we're losing that more and more. But I just... so you've done obviously the extra work to sort of come to peace with it. And now I would imagine in certain ways you're in a new chapter, maybe other relationships, what have you. I'm just curious because there's other people that maybe they're in relationships that they shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
How does one, in a case like that, what is the thing that you just go, yeah, this is it. Like, where do you find that strength? What happens that you can say, I'm gonna get out of this?
I mean, unfortunately, I have so many examples of it, and like not so many. Like, I've dated some really wonderful people, and I've dated wonderful people that maybe weren't healthy for me. Like. Yeah.
Are you rescuing them? Like, what is it? You're funny. You're strong.
I would say I'm Melanonic. Yeah. Like I definitely. It's probably some sort of. I've been trying to figure it out for a long time, I suppose. My dad married an alcoholic, so I was around that very young. So I'm sure there's some sort of link to that. But ever since I was little, I've always been a little organizer, stacking up my stuffed animals. My room needs to be perfect. If my space can be perfect, then I'm in control and all's at peace. It's also still something I used to procrastinate. But in that time where we were away from our mom when she was healing, we lived with our grandparents. And when I was very, very young, those formative years, and my grandpa was someone who was very, very strict in Great Depression, World War II. And that was extremely formative. Like, I think I'm sort of recreating those moments in my adulthood. Like, no one can get mad at me and I'm safe if my hands are clean and I've washed this twice and everything's, in order. Yeah. And then I'm safe. So I think even sometimes I'll notice like men from my past after they leave, I clean. And it's like, that's a hint, Beth. Yeah. There's the whole little joke about wash that man out of my hair.
You mean like throw their shit out clean?
No, I mean like wipe everything down. Yeah. Like they touched this or they messed this up or whatever it is. And I actually don't live in a museum. Like, you know, like my stuff is, it's definitely a take off your shoes place, but it's not like if you came over, there's a trust aspect, I guess. Like my best friend will come over, sleep on the couch. She has a toothbrush in the drawer. Like, it's not that I'm like, you can't touch this. And
trust.
If I feel safe with you, it's like, you can come in and please take off your shoes, but
Yeah.
lay on my couch, use whatever you need in my cupboard, like whatever it is. So it's always a little hint that I'm probably with the wrong person if I'm cleaning a lot or I feel that uptick. But I guess the not great answer is like, even when things are extremely abusive for someone, they sometimes, there's, you know, I forget what the stats are, but they go back many times or it takes them this many times to leave. So that's the hardest part. I think in my past, I've waited for something good enough to leave. Something bad, I should say. I've waited for something bad enough that it's a good enough excuse to leave.
Yeah.
Like even they know I have to leave.
Yeah.
And that's not good advice. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not advice. It's you're sharing your experience.
Yeah. It's like I'm looking like that's happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, you said this thing. And they're like, you're right. I'm like, I gotta go. And they're like, you're right. And then I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
like I can't be here anymore and you know it.
Yeah.
But I am very much like, especially if I love someone, another chance and believe them. And here we go again. And sometimes people are dealing with stuff greater than them that they can't control. And they might mean well saying that they're going to change and they just aren't capable of it at that time.
Yeah.
And I think Al-Anon was helpful to me. I still need to kind of like, it's a thing you got to keep up with. And I will say this, Al-Anon helped me leave my last relationship and stay out.
Mm-hmm. What would be the practice? What is the inner practice that sort of keeps you a mental checklist that it's like, you know, you're checking and it's sort of like, yeah, no, keep your distance. Like what are some of the lessons that come out of that help you stay tuned up?
Yeah, I would say if I catch myself changing my own plans or not scheduling something in case they do want to do something with me. And it doesn't mean I need to book up my whole week and tell them I'm so busy. Like I think no games and straightforward has been really helpful, and honesty, obviously. That's what I have been living, I would say. Like 7 months of this year, it was just what I said to you earlier. It was like hockey and friends and travel and get back to me. No interest in dating whatsoever. Then I met this person at a 4th of July party, and I really was pulled towards them in like a Disney wind way. That's like, when you're like, why am I going towards this guy? You know what I mean? And I'm like, even then I had to go, is this the bad part of me that's drawn towards this? Not bad part of me. Yeah. Is this that unhealthy thing that's drawing me towards this person? Or is this the universe been like, you've had enough. Yeah. Go towards this man. He's kind, you know, or other people were kind too. I just mean, go towards this person.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to do my best to stay on top of it and not let my emotions overtake me. And we've like spent time getting to know each other, and checklist wise, it's the scheduling thing. It's making sure I still have things for myself, and it's making sure I'm not doing, for lack of better terms, manipulative things to control the situation. So the baseline would be, what do I have control over? My own life.
Yeah.
And I can't like be living it for someone else or give everything over to them to show them I love them. Like,
oh, to prove, you mean to prove it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about instincts?
I think I really messed with those on my last one to the point where I was struggling trusting myself. And, you know, I think gaslighting is a term obviously everyone's probably heard a lot of in the last few years, as well as like trauma and trigger. There's a lot of this in the zeitgeist. But I would say like my instincts were barking and I just wasn't listening. And if I did, I would say something and that person would unfortunately lie to me. And I would say, okay, I love them. They must be telling me the truth. But it's like, I knew. It's like, you do know. So I'm kind of recalibrating on that, which is why the Disney wind, where I'm like, am I ready to trust me yet? I hope I am. I hope I've done everything to this point where I'm choosing well.
Well, I think the physical practice is good though. Like you're out there, you're running around.
Yeah.
The ball's coming. You have to move when you're in a physical practice from your instincts.
Yeah.
You're assessing, but you're also staying. And I think there's something really primal and great. I believe we are given that. You know, when you talk about going back to your essence, I think we all are given, especially females, even an extra bit of instinct. So I'll be interested. Maybe we can talk in like 2 more years. And I'd love to see.
Yeah. I hope we talk sooner than 2 years.
No, I want to talk as a person. I just wouldn't drag you through this again.
I'd love to come back in 2 years. A 2-year check-in would be good, actually.
Seriously. You think about having a family? Do you like?
Yeah.
I was joking with you in the sauna that no one is more surprised that Laird and I are still together than Laird and I, because, I think we were both in different ways, dedicated to something. For me, it was sports, and I lived a pretty clean life, and Laird has a true dedication to being in the ocean. But neither one of us, I don't think, if you'd asked us when we were like 18, but thinking like, you think you could be in a long marriage.
Right.
And so it's, the idea of family never occurred to me until I met Laird. And then I sort of thought, well, and like I said, I had an instant daughter.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking when I met him, because it was instantaneous and I wasn't like that. You can't just date this guy. You're going to end up being like, you have to be a parent too. And she has a mother. My daughter's mother is like my other wife. But it was like, no, this isn't a game. Like at 25, like he's cute.
Right.
This is like, no, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking it's not ideal. I never thought about having kids. And now that I have a family, I'm like, oh, okay. But do you think, just sometimes I think when you come from a wonky childhood, you think, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. Or do you sort of go, that'd be maybe fun? I
think it's a little immature to say I don't want to do that in some ways.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've experienced either through friends or personally where it'll be like, someone will say like, well, I can't do that, or I deal with this because my dad left, or whatever it is. And it's like, you're a grown person. Yeah. So when are you going to stop using that as an excuse?
It's like after 27, I think they say it's a no-go.
Yeah. And exactly. Like that's not going to work as an answer. So I think I have spoken, of course, and I make jokes about not having kids. I definitely lampoon marriage in a lot of ways, and I've
as you should,
yeah. And I do think it's a little antiquated, and I also think I've said to myself where I'm like, I'm never the person who's like, I'm never getting married. It's so stupid. Like I have been to weddings that have moved me to tears. Weddings aren't marriages, puppies aren't dogs.
Or like a partnership.
Yes.
Even a partnership.
Sure. I definitely would like a partnership. Sometimes I feel like I don't know. I'm going on a tangent because I got this one life map reading once, which I'm not even like into. And she was like, you're going to have many relationships over your life. And that just felt like at peace to me. Yeah. I was like, nice.
Yeah. So
I kind of resigned myself to that in a way where I was like, no, that would be nice. Like people coming into my life. Yeah. But I'm like in your position actually just 10 years later in the sense that like when it's happening to me, because the person I'm seeing does have kids. So that is an interesting thing where I go, wait, is it maybe not out of my body, but I will have a family? Yeah. Those things are coming into my mind as options. And of course, I have grown to care about them through him, and we've been open and talked about what that means because we're trying to take it slow, but also enjoy each other, which we have been. Like this, he really delights me. Like I would describe it like that. There's things we have in common that seem meaningless, but are so like, is this what it kind of means when you have a person type thing, which I never really felt was a thing. That being said, I've looked at someone I've dated in the past who's extremely unhealthy and said, I want to have your babies, like in my head.
Sure.
So it's like you can have those feelings and be like, I want to have babies. I want to make a baby with this person. And it's not right. But like, yes, I think I do want a family. It's hard for me to answer if I want to have my own. Yeah. Because I think I do. But I feel scared to say that because it requires so much of someone else. I can do it on my own if I find some sperm laying around on the table or wherever. We had some visitors today. There's a couple dudes hanging about that ones. Would be great candidates. Smart, honestly.
Cute, you know, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, if I was like dead set on having a kid, like I can do that, I suppose. But I would like a partnership. I want something real, and there is something to be said about like having it with your genes. Yeah. So I definitely, the answer is I think if I had to be and not think about it too much in the reality of it, I'd say, yes, I want to have a baby with him.
Yeah, great.
Like I want to have our own baby.
But in a way,
I don't know the reality of that.
But in a way, I think at this point in life, if you're with somebody, it should feel like that's even in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it has to happen. Doesn't mean that's not going to change. I think at this point, you'd be like, hey, I'm a busy person. I tour. You're gone 3-4 days. You're going to the Pan American Games. I mean, you have things you could be doing. So for me, it feels like that would be great. I will say this, just as somebody who is a step parent, there can be something really beautiful about being an alternative person to love children, because also you don't annoy them the way that their parents do. Like I annoy my younger two way more in a different way than my older one. And so and I was raised for 5 years by a couple that I wasn't related to in any way. My aunt, who recently passed away, was 5 feet tall and very overweight. And so, and my mother, who is blonde, 6'2", if they both walked into the room, in so many ways, I'm more connected to my Aunt Norette.
Yeah.
So giving love to a young person, you can't believe how rich it is. And by the way, I birthed my kids. I nursed them. Do I remember any of it? Yeah, kind of. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's just about the relationships.
Right. And I think I am drawn and excited by the possibility of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think in the positive ways of being like whatever we're referring to it as, like an Al-Anonic person.
Yeah.
I feel overflowing with love that I want to give him and his kids.
Yeah.
I feel like all I want to do is like not in a, loving with an open hand, but I just mean like I feel like I want to just give them so much.
Yeah.
So that is like maybe could be considered negative if I'm not checking in with myself.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not having some sense of self still, but like I do feel that.
Yeah.
Like I would want to be there for them and be a safe person in their lives for sure. And I'm still getting to know them. It's like, very early.
Yeah.
So it's like.
But that's a great possibility.
Yes.
You never know. Let's talk about the creative process. There's people who they write, they sit down, it's a disciplined act. There's other people where they're walking around with a notebook. For you, how does it work? How do you put together material?
I think of something and I'll either type it in my notes app or write it in one of my notebooks. I still am very analog. Like, you write too. Like I like writing. Mm-hmm. And I'll try it on stage. So I'll write the kernel and then I'll say it into the microphone. And then I listen back a lot when I'm working on a set like this. I have a new hour that I've been touring with since September. And it's like, I'm still working through a lot of things. You saw me working on a story, which I can't wait for you to see what it turns into. And so I will think of something and then I'll try it. Like even for example, dating this guy, I talked to him because I'm in a different place than I ever have been.
You have to get permission, don't you?
Yeah. So I was like, hey, how would you feel if I had jokes about you? And he was like, well...
You got jokes.
What are they? Yeah.
Is it about,
right.
Or like...
I mean, one of the jokes is like how much I appreciate, like I'm so attracted to him because he is a good dad.
Very sexy.
Yes. And I say there's like sort of a bit of a double standard in that sense. Did I tell this joke for you?
No.
Where it was like, I think there's less people out there saying like, she's such a hot mom. She's like really good with her kids. She's like super busy, really frazzled. And she's got a lot on her plate. And the possibility of adding to that is really turning me on. I feel like less is that is happening and more like a hot dad situation. So I say, I wrote a joke that's just like, he's a great dad. He lets me put all my trash in his pockets. Yeah. And he puts me up on his shoulders. I mean, we're laying down, he's facing me, but you get it. So like, of course he loves that joke. Of
course.
I'm not over here being like, and then sometimes we leave his ex-wife to deal with it all.
Yeah.
Like that would be like, maybe we cut that one.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's like, would be my process. I didn't always ask permission. I haven't always because I dated comics for a long time. So it was a understood thing that we would be writing jokes about each other. Or if you wrote it, you'd be like, here's the joke. What do you think? I'm like, well, I'm telling it anyway.
Yeah.
This
is just a courtesy.
Yeah. I'm just letting you know that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So that was more of the take because that was, I think, understood. Like he was doing the same thing to me. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely had a relationship where we were sort of East Coast, West Coast.
You said something that I feel comfortable bringing up because it feels agnostic. But you said that you have jokes that you'll put in and they'll get a laugh, and sometimes you'll put a joke in and it won't get laughs, and you'll keep working and it won't get laughs, and you're like, screw it, I'm doing it for me. And I was like, I love that.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, if it does make it in the special, like sometimes in the moment of a special, people are so happy to be there, it'll roll over a little, like, I can sneak it in or something.
Yeah.
And then there will be one random person online that's like, I love that line when you say this.
They're your people.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, you're the only one, I promise. That's for you and me alone.
Yeah. But there's something that's such an important thing is as a craftsman to be like, yeah, people, I'm doing this for me, this one.
Yes, because it might connect with one other person. I mean, I've also had to fight to keep things in. I feel like HBO wanted to cut, I say something like, sometimes when I do an hour and move on, it's like dead out of my brain. But it was something along the lines of like, oh, maybe it's because we were brainwashed by hundreds of doctored images of women since the time we could see.
Yeah.
And then I go, that's a little dark, but I keep it in. They wanted to cut, that's a little dark, but I keep it in. And it's like, I don't think you should cut that. So, again, it's not like it was some massive fight, but I was like, keep that in.
Yeah. When you have a director, you said the same person who directed one did the other. What is their job? Because you write it, you're performing it. What is it? An objective eye? Like what is it? Is it technical? Is it lighting? How does that work? I think
everybody has a sort of a different take on this. You'll have people in the camp of like, say a very famous comic is like, I directed it myself. I mean, a director does nothing. It's like, it's all about the DP, the director of photography, who's setting up the lighting. So some people will say like, director of stand-up comedy show, you got a wide, you got a short, you got it's a 5-camera shoot, who cares? So like, yes, that is one take. Mm-hmm. Then I chose and fought for my HBO special, Payman Benz, who was just someone who really wanted to get into directing stand-up. I trusted him and I just needed him to kind of look out for me in the sense where I was like, can we make sure that it's what I want? Yep. Which was, for that special in particular, I wanted to have everybody be close to me. Because whenever I was on a high stage, I found myself either sitting or coming down at the edge of the stage so I could just be among people because the subject matter to me required me not talking down on people, but like kind of being among them. So he kind of helped advocate for me in that way. And then, of course, his knowledge of everything. But there's also systems he had to slide into. Yeah. When there's multiple people on board, Team Coco, HBO Max, all these things. Right. This last special I self-produced, and Mo Welch is the director. She's like one of my best friends. We started comedy together in Chicago. So she had expressed interest in wanting to direct. This would be her directorial debut. And that is a completely different relationship. So she's coming to my shows, she's watching me, she's giving me some feedback, which as a stand-up comic, I don't usually take. Like, I don't need another comic unless I know them and deeply trust them to come up to me like, you should say this. It's like, actually, you should fuck yourself. Right. Yeah. It's very much a lone wolf thing, like in ways of like, don't tell me what to do because it's my thing. And also, I don't know where you got that and I don't trust you. Would you read that off of Laffy Taffy? Right. I don't know where you got that. Yeah. It's like an old guy coming up to you and be like, you're going to have that one. It's like, you can keep it, Yeah. So, but with Mo, it's like, I do trust her. And so she said to me at one point, you and I talked about this a little, which is like, she's like, I love these moments when you do have action. Yeah. She's like, because you're normally so subdued. So she said, let's play into those moments a little bit more. Just be aware of them because, you are that calm and centered person. But when you're going big, she's like, have fun with it. So that was great advice. She's also someone I would trust to give me a tag or two. I missed one in the special, which still kills me, which is, she gave me, I didn't say it so you wouldn't know it, but I say we were drinking, when we went down to drink at UD as 8th graders at the University of Dayton, I say we were drinking Milwaukee's best. And then Mo said with Ohio's worst. Yeah. So, but I missed that tag. But that's the benefit of that, like our relationship, her knowing me, she's with me the whole time. And then as a best friend during that time of my life, she was really holding me down, like as a friend and confidant and supporter. Yeah. So her as a director of this last special was probably very different than any other director because she's also learning on the fly too. And she brought in a DP that she really likes and is friends with named Jordan Levy, who does and has a lot of experience that he can share with Mo, and then they can work together to make what ended up being, beautiful. And that the theater is a theater I grew up going to, field trips and the bigger moments. It's not that they're jarring, but the first time you see it, because you're so calm and your laugh's like, you're like, oh. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's great. She's a little freak. Yeah. She's a silly little freak.
I can't imagine this idea of like you're funny for a living at like the worst freaking times of your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes. very strange to reckon with that. I remember having a bad time at my dad's early days of stand-up. Like I started in Chicago in around 07 and I had a bad visit with my dad. I was dealing with like a lot of acne and I think I'd definitely gained some weight. And the minute I went down there, and I'm a grown person at this point. I must have been, what, 22 or something? 23? The minute
Why
he
are you
sees
still
me,
visiting your dad?
I don't know. Glutton for punishment.
Okay.
I didn't know that no was a
Don't
complete
you know about like
sentence at
that
that time.
5-year span that you get like from 18 to 24 to be like, I'll see you in like a few years.
See, at my wedding I won't have because of you. No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
Yeah.
I think, he said to me something like about my acne right away. I look like a little boy going through puberty or something like that. And it broke me. And I was like really just sad. And I came back to Chicago and I had a show and I called, I don't know, emailed. Yeah. I forget. Maybe it was a text, but it was like that. Tick, tick, tick,
yeah.
Tick, tick.
Oh yeah. Like 3 to 1.
Maybe I had an iPhone. I don't know. But I said, I can't make it. I'm just really low. And he's like, oh, you got to be there. Which, by the way, at the time, I was like probably bringing a lot of people and he needed me to bring people. And it was very probably selfish on his part.
I need you to be here.
Yeah. And he's like, use it, is what he said. I was like, no, I had a really bad time with my family. I'm kind of going through it. I'm just low. I can't get up for this. Yeah. He's like, you should come on stage and talk about it. Use it. And I just will always remember that because I was like, you're wrong.
Yeah. And that's the trust thing too. It's trusting
I'm
who's
not coming.
Yeah. Well, that's good though.
It was good I did that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing I did because I said yes to many other things I shouldn't have. But so yeah, I would say there are times where as recently as a month or two ago, the situation was just wrong and I didn't do well and probably 50 people in New Orleans saw me bomb. You know what I mean? Like I just like couldn't get up for it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a very sensitive person. I'm often sensitive, but in that particular situation, I was like, I can't. And even I told you about Portland a couple weeks ago. I had like 4 amazing shows in Portland at Helium, which is a great comedy club. The 5th show, late show Saturday. The minute I walked out, I knew it was off. Like if they're not laughing at that first little joke I pop, it's like, oh, well, we're not on the same page. It doesn't mean I give up.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like, oh, this is going to be bad. Yeah. So here we go. I'm going to try. And after a while, it just was like, because I'm myself, myself on stage and I talk about my real life and I'm not lying and I don't have writers. You know what I mean? Like this is me sharing myself with you. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm such a martyr. It's just like, unfortunately, that's the style and path I've chosen.
Yeah.
So when I can't get them after a while, I was like, guys, I gotta stop.
Yeah.
There's only so many times it felt like giving a gift to a child and having them go, what's next? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. I made that with my hands.
I spent hours cooking that, years even. I went through a lot. I've got flour on my face. So I'm just sort of like, I said to them, like, I'm going to cut it short. And you could tell there's pockets. Like, we just couldn't gel. But there was pockets. They're like, no. And it's like, I'm not manipulating them. Like, who wants an encore? You know what I mean? I'm like, guys, I don't have it. I can't give you any more. This has been terrible. And so I still face them at the end. Sometimes I won't go out after that. Like, everybody's always shocked that I will stand and sell my own merch afterwards. It's clearly a control thing. Yeah. And I did it. I made myself go out there because I was like, I know some of these people need to see me. Yeah. So I did it. And it's like you said, a selfish giving thing. Because some of them came up to me and were like, we're sorry that crowd was so weird. It was weird, right? I'm like, yeah, it was weird. And this is why comedians sometimes are the way that they end up being.
But the fact that you can handle it, we talk about, I never say it right, hermetic stress, positive stress. It's hard. It's shitty. You're not damaging your life by going through it. But the fact that you can mental up and deal with it, I don't know. There's something really powerful in that helps us again and again and again that I think it's like one of those like, it's so hard to go through. Yes. But man, when you can do it and just take it and be like, that sucked. It's like so good.
You're right. And I think that is one of those cases.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you nailed it. Because it's like the fact that I went out afterwards is that extra like bow on it. Like I just did that.
I'm going to face it.
I'm going to stand there.
Yeah. It's
bye-bye.
Yeah. So I want to end in your physical practice. You're an athlete.
A little more lately than normal.
That sounds like you're reluctant. You're in the right house, baby. Look at that.
Probably from the
Who's that? Oh, your little black and blue.
Yeah, I know. Those are
Some
like one
mean
little
girl.
spot right there. It's probably from my own stick or something. Earlier today, we're like, "What'd you fall on?" He's like, "Myself."
My rib. Yeah. One day we'll tell that story. Spider-Man. No, is are you sent me your app and you had some training, you have some intervals to do. Have you changed your eating? You have a nighttime job.
I know.
How do you do it? How are you keeping it together?
I know. I fell apart a little last week, I would say. And I was supposed to do a show last night that I did cancel for my own being and well-being.
For field hockey? Yes.
And I just said, like, I never flake and I don't like flaking.
No.
I don't like canceling. I was like, but I gotta.
Yeah, you got the Pan Am Games, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say on the road, this was the first time I feel like in a long time that I was actively working out while being on the road. That's crazy to me. To use a hotel gym, are you kidding me? I was in there running 3 miles on a hotel treadmill. That was a wild experience.
What time do you go to bed if you're on the road? Like, do you go to when you go
2, 3 a.m. or something?
Are you in the same city for those like Thursday through Sunday kind of gig?
Because the realm I'm in is like I do comedy clubs around the country, which is one Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday.
Right. And then so you're in the same city, but you go to bed at 2 or 3, and then do you mill?
Well, this is what got me a little sick as of last week when I finally got through it, but I got whatever cold was going around, I think, and I think a lot has to do with lack of sleep on this last 3-month schedule. So or September, October, sorry, I did it again. You think I'm around them all the time. I was trying to get the training in before I traveled, but then sometimes like if I'm going to the East Coast for a show, it's that day's gone. I have a show that night.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have press at 7 a.m. on Friday morning.
Oh, like the shows and stuff?
They have it's like, why do they do this to comedians? They make us,
it should be noon.
Yeah. So show up. So then after that, I am up so I can do the training there. And then I have 2 shows that night. It's like the day really goes when you're on the road. And those weekends are so fast. Sometimes when I see comics like, and I went water rafting when I was in Denver, I'm like, only a dude, I think. You know what I mean? Because I'm over here like, I definitely have the anxiety of like, at noon being like, I have a show in minutes. Like, that's
I feel
how it feels.
way too. I feel that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Like if you have a competition, you're like, my whole day is geared towards this idea that you're doing something at night.
Very much that is my life.
So do you take a nap or anything before your show?
I definitely can sometimes take a nap. I want to listen to the set from the night before, which is an hour of work.
You do?
Hour plus of work because I did an hour. Sometimes I can skip through stuff that's working or speed up my voice. But I riff a lot, and if I'm having fun, speaking of, and feel safe and happy, and people are there having fun and giving me energy, it creates so much fun for me, and I'll write jokes on the spot. Oh. So I'll write a joke out of not having anything and needing it in the moment. And that's how I write pretty much now. So I need to listen back to what I riffed so that I can put it in the act.
Get it dialed in.
Yeah.
What about...
I underestimate actually living it, though. I will say, because sometimes I'll go like, I didn't listen enough, and the special's not where it should be, and it's like you lived it over and over and over again. It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust that.
And then food, and are you buttoning
try not
that
to
up?
eat at the club.
Oh, good.
Like,
no chicken fingers or
right.
anything?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm eating less at the club. I'll try to find a healthier place around town and order that to the club. Sometimes I'm not eating like I should. Like I'm not starving myself, but it's just sort of like all of a sudden the day's gone. I'm at the club and I'm like, what am I eating?
Yeah,
and
with ranch dressing.
Yeah, I'll try to get something that's healthy there sometimes. But yeah, I would say the diet thing is on the back burner. Like, I don't cook for myself often. Although, this weekend of training at Duke, I went to Whole Foods when I got there, got groceries, and every day before training, I made myself an egg. Or a scramble with spinach and feta and some sourdough toast. Because
you had to look in the eyeballs of your teammates, right? You're scared of those girls, aren't you?
I wanted my barf to look cool. I was like,
look at that,
barf.
veggies, ladies.
I ate veggies. Can you see?
Check it out.
And by the way, barf meaning I worked out so hard I barfed. Anyway,
people, you guys know that.
Look, sometimes people are.
No, we're not. This is not a comedian's podcast. These people know what's up.
Okay, good. But so I will say I need to do a little better about that. Okay. I'm heavy on bread and sugars and things like that, more than I probably should.
Do you think though you're gonna? I mean, of course
I ate a lot of marshmallows last night.
Marshmallows?
I know people.
Who the hell eats marshmallows?
I do. I love them. I love Peeps. Yeah, but those are even too much for me. I will say the processed sugars.
Yes.
I found that as I'm working out, and this is an annoying thing for people to hear,
you want them
who
less.
aren't working out and bother you. I want them less.
Yeah.
Like I'm less of a nerd rope reach these days and more of an orange. Like your body like craves like the fuel it needs. Yada yada.
Do you laugh at yourself when you
yes.
hear it?
I have so much backed up candy in my house. They're always trying to give me unhealthy
maybe
stuff
little
at comedy
kids
shows.
Will come around, you can give it to them.
Yeah, I already did. I already gave
You're
them
like, I'm your friend.
Do you guys like me around here?
I'm so great, huh? Oh my goodness.
Yes, the training, I'm like, and then I'll get a really early flight out on Sundays to make it back here to train with my team here.
That's
Sunday,
hard.
10 to 12.
That's hard.
That's what killed me.
That's hard.
I want to say last Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like I had the show Saturday night, which didn't go great. Flight was at 6. I had to get picked up at 4:30 or something. I didn't sleep because I actually deleted all those emails, which we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then I landed and I was like, I slept for 2 hours on a plane.
Yeah.
I have to go back to bed.
Yeah.
So I did, and I missed field hockey. And then I woke up, and my throat was a little scratchy. This is last week on Monday. And then I was like, it's because I'm not sleeping enough. And then I skipped training on Monday. So then I knew I was going to have to go to Duke that weekend. So by the time I got to Duke, there was a couple other girls that were getting over something too.
Yeah, I think something was going around.
But what I'm trying to do is, I don't want to know how I'm going to do in the game if I'm a little sick. I want to know how I'm going to do in the game because I've been training for 6 weeks.
Full
like,
throttle.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the frustrating part because I want to know, has the training been training?
Yeah. You're going to see. You're going to, well, half of it's mental. Half of the hours, yes, you get in the rhythm. Yes, you use a couple of those pounds. So we're moving and you're lighter. But half of it is the brain is like, oh, you're allowed.
Yeah.
You can. You deserve it. You've been working. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious if you think you'll use this time maybe to, this is like me giving you my wishful thinking for you. Do you like it?
Yes.
Springboard you into maybe a different lifestyle, even though your nighttime job.
Yeah.
Like less sugar. I feel like you said you weren't really drinking on the road.
I've never been I should say never. I think my college friends would be like, but like I don't drink a ton.
Okay, that's good because
that'll
kick your ass
thankfully
in a
is
whole
just
way.
not an issue for me.
Okay.
I can have it or not have it. But it's possible because it already has. Like we said, I've lost some weight, some fat I do miss.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can get those girls back.
Yeah.
They'll get jiggly again, don't worry.
But I do find myself being like, what are the possibilities? Like I'm pushing myself for the Pan Am Games because I want to represent the country and I want to not disappoint my team, most importantly.
Yeah, you're scared of those girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah.
They have sticks too. Mm-hmm. And your nail polish.
Yeah.
You've got the
I'm
blue
ready.
and red.
I'm America.
Mm-hmm.
My toes are red.
Yes.
And I think it's like, oh, I worked really hard, so I don't have an excuse. Like so much is like, stand-up can very much be a very like, well, I didn't work hard anyway, and I still did well. And that's a relief.
Yeah.
It's like, what if you worked hard? What would happen?
Yeah.
Could you be even better?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, now that I've committed myself to being prepared for this as best I can without any excuses, I am sort of like, how much further can I go? And can I make it again next year? Because you have to try out every year.
Yeah. I think I'm excited to see.
Thank you.
I have only one more confession and then I'm going to turn it over to Justin. I was thinking about this today when we were going to get into our conversation. As a female athlete, I have, as a mother of 3 daughters, as a great champion to strong and powerful and smart women.
And a champion yourself.
Yes. I think I was thinking about female comedians and as athletes where it's like, we do have a different gauge of what we hear from women and what we hear from men. And I realized even as a female ear that like, you know, when a woman says something sometimes really harsh or really vulgar, maybe with the exception of like almost Roseanne Barr, because there was something kind of almost where she could be both energies at the same time. I was like, oh, it's so interesting that me as a female even sometimes is like, whoa, when it comes from a woman.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a bias I had to look at in myself where I was like, I wonder where that comes from. It's also the same mechanism why I'm more protective of a woman. And I want to like take care and make sure she's safe and it's a weird combination. So I feel like you're in a field that's so interesting and you do it in a way where you can say stuff, but somehow, I don't know, it's this knack of doing it as a woman from a woman's point of view, but it feels universal. I don't know if that makes sense, where I feel like you haven't abandoned the feminine perspective. But it was something I needed to look at myself. I was like, oh, you judge them differently too.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I hear all of that.
Do you ever have that? Like where you hear a woman say something, a guy could say it and you're just like, oh, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like if he's like, oh, my dick, and or if she's like, oh, my pussy. And I'm like, whoa, you know.
Right.
And so it's an interesting thing sometimes just to even have that pointed out.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate the reflection. It's always interesting to hear how you're perceived because I can get a laugh, but I don't know exactly how it's being perceived. So it's like, I am very conscious of those things and how I'm and my goals and what I'm trying to do. Like there are some ways that, yes, I just want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And there are also ways where I'm like, how can I bring us together? Like what's the pill and the peanut butter?
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that like two things that I'm very proud of. One, I like being a comics comic. And two, when I leave a comedy club, the staff always says, we love your crowd. Mm. Because I say this a lot, but your words are a magnet and that's who comes to you. Mm. So what you say absolutely matters and is going to reflect you in some capacity to some extent. You can't control everybody who shows up.
Right.
But I do have a lot of men in my crowds. I do have a lot of women. It's not just one homogenous group. Mm-hmm. And I've had beautiful conversations with people after, which is sometimes why I force myself to go out. I remember in Indianapolis a couple years ago, a guy brought his son and he's about to head off to college. And he's like, I brought him here to see you for a reason. I really like how you talk about stuff. So thank you.
Yeah.
And he was in the realm of consent in that particular hour and many other things. But that meant a lot to me. I had I also have women coming up to me saying stuff like, I'm buying a hat, because I'm getting an abortion later. Yeah. It's these things where I'm sort of like, I'm glad I can be there whether I'm there or not. Yep. In these ways. I think I agree with you. I can be more judgmental. In my early days of stand-up, I said, I'm not going to talk about sex because I don't want to be another woman talking about sex. Mm. And then I completely threw that out from my hour 3 years ago because I was like, no, I can talk about whatever I want as long as I make it funny. Yeah. And of course, that can be subjective to a lot of people, just like music, you don't like it all, you're not going to like all of comedy. But to me, I'm making it as funny as I possibly can because I still sometimes will watch comedy and I am particularly sometimes harsh on women and I'll say, it's in the realm of what I call, that's not helping.
I know, but it's so tricky as a female and one that I'm like all for it. When I see it in myself, I'm like, whoa, mm-hmm. Why does that land on you harsh?
Well, part of me thinks for many years we watched men on stage and men dominate the mm-hmm. arena of stand-up and the realm of it. And we watched countless women sit in a crowd and go, laugh while they're called the battle axe or a bad wife or all the crazy stuff she does, or my wife, the old ball and chain. And we're like, and the minute there are different people that aren't reflecting, like a lot of these dudes that comment on my Facebook stuff, they're not seeing the mirror that they're used to seeing. I don't like that. It's like, oh, interesting for you to, is this your first experience going through the world and not seeing yourself reflected back to you?
Right.
Because wow, what a life you've had. Mm. We're used to being like, oh, that's not for me. And oh, that's poisonous. Or I'm going to pick through the poison because that's not for me. I know not everything's for me. So it's sort of like, but we live in a patriarchal, capitalistic, racist country. I mean, like built on those things. Not like we're a bad place. I'm so grateful to live here. I'm just saying those are sort of ingrained in what we've come up with. So you're going to have that in your head too. And I think sometimes when men are hearing it from a woman, she's not allowed to talk about that. That's not her place.
Yeah.
We have control over that realm. We'll tell you what to do and what we like or don't like. So the minute there's feedback or notes, I think there's plenty of men in a crowd that can say, oh, that's interesting, or I'm safe in what I do. I know I'm happy in my relationship, but man, I can't believe people are doing that.
But also you somehow maybe are the next iteration because you're young enough where you don't also have to be angry. You're just saying it. And for me, this is what's important.
That's possible.
So like, for example, if I'm coaching or working with men, I'm not trying to bend their will or bend them my way. I'm just giving them information. Yeah. And that comes from, you're not then fighting for the power.
You're right.
You're simply going up and going, here's my experience and I'm sharing it.
Yeah.
Because there's enough room and space now to go ahead and say it. You don't have to hammer it down. You don't have to yell it. You don't have to.
Well,
So it's an interesting tone shift, I think, that maybe your group gets to do.
That's very possible. And because of the people who've come before me and either done it right or done it wrong or just forged the path and had those words be said out of their mouths into a microphone, I'm able to do it in a different way.
Yeah. So I thought that I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because it's still saying the things, but it's sort of inviting everyone into it instead of taking a big group that's going to go, whoa, and pushing them out.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think it is important to me too. Like I remember also first time reading like The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, and which was very meaningful to me and what I learned from it. It's like, I do love men. I want to bring us together. I need men. It's not about you're wrong and you're so stupid and you don't get it. It's like, I do want to bring you and I want to share with you and I want to know more from you. But that doesn't mean every woman is like me. Women are out there
no, it's one
afflicting
perspective.
people with patriarchy as well.
Sure.
So men are hurt by women too.
Well, that's I mean, no one ever talks about like the manipulation, all these other things, right? Like what did somebody say? Like a prerequisite, or a lot of men say, to be with someone is like, oh, I'd like her to be nice to me. Where women are like, he needs to be this tall and make this much money and da 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 da. So I get it.
Right, and those kinds of things make me cringe. You know, like, I have trouble accepting a drink from someone at a bar because I'm afraid I have to owe them something.
Right.
You know?
So it is happening. Of course. I mean, I always say that half the best people I know are men. But I just mean within these other conversations that women want to further, you do an artful job of sort of dropping it off and going, let's take a look at that, instead of it's just done in a different way. So I really appreciate that. Justin, do you have a...
Get the one. Have you found any parallels between what's probably two of the most opposite things, team sport, field hockey, and then just you up there on your own? And does it feel the same need for you?
Right. I would say I recognize some things that are interesting things I discovered about myself this past weekend, which was that desire in me as a people pleaser to be liked and not willing to show up and be like, I'm the clown. You know, like I don't show up like that. No. I'm not like, I'm always on.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel the need to be the comedian this weekend. I did still feel that deep thing within me that's like, I do want to be liked. I want people to like me. More importantly, I think I want people to respect me and I want to feel like I belong, that I'm not letting people down. And I need a little bit of feedback, which I got from a couple people. They were welcoming, supportive, like even one specifically probably noticed this about me or something and was like, I just want to make you feel welcome and you belong here, you know, like, which was so appreciated. It was another teammate of mine. And so as I'm joining this team where I'm used to being a lone wolf, only responsible for myself, something I have noticed, even just pick up games in the last couple years, I am a defender. I'm safe in that. It feels right. Like you can't get past me. Like, of course, sometimes people do. But, you know, my teammates lovingly refer to me as the brick wall, right?
Nice.
And so I'm like, that is what I take pride in. That's so comfortable to me. And then I just kind of flick it away and it could be a turnover. It's like, how do I carry this forward and deliver it to the next line of my team? So I think there's ways that I'm still like reactive, like we talked about, like I need to wait for their mistake, to not jump, to not, you know, go out and then not be able to recover.
But it's pretty new. Like you're not like, hello.
Yes.
Give yourself a little break.
You're right.
It's a little new. Right. Be like me saying I didn't go out and kill. And you're like, dude, you've been on the stage for like 12 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think I'm like, I want to be a little less defensively minded, even just as a human being, like defensive, because that's how I built up my career. No one knew me. And when I had to show up to the comedy club, it was like, literally put on your armor because you're about to go to war and you have to prove that you're funny and make these people laugh.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, you don't have to fight. Like just show up.
Yeah. And more comes out of
present.
Comes out of not proving. More comes out of just doing your thing.
Yes. Very much.
Very much.
Yeah.
So I just want to mention, of course, people can see your special on Netflix. And
yes. And my name is Beth Stelling, and it's called If You Didn't Want Me Then.
Which is the story around that's very cute.
Thank you.
And also I want to just toot your other horn that you write, you perform, and you do stand up. So
Yeah.
you obviously have a lot going on.
I got some stuff cooking.
I
Got
think
a
it's
couple
great.
things on the burner. Thank you.
I'm really excited to continue to see, and then we'll sit here. You can come here anytime you want, but we'll catch up in like a little, in what, 18 months? What do you think, Justin?
Yeah.
Okay, 18 months. We'll catch up.
Pencil it in.
I got it penciled in.
Okay.
It's like your dentist appointment.
Beth Stelling, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you want to learn more, there is a ton of valuable information on my website. All you have to do is go to GabrielleReece.com or head to the episode show notes to find a full breakdown with helpful links to studies, research, books, podcasts, and so much more. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and send them to @GabbyReece on Instagram. And if you feel inspired, please subscribe. I'll see you next week.